it belongs to Armenia. Given the fact that it's a fairly long conflict with over 30-year history, it obviously has become embedded in the national psyche of both nations, and quite often it's certainly been used as some sort of a domestic factor to mobilize the population or to win the hearts and minds by nationalist politicians. So, and the fact that the conflict hasn't really been resolved, it just entered from a hot stage into some sort of a semi-frozen stage with regular flare-ups occurring. In this particular time, it's very unclear what really triggered the conflict, because as with similar conflicts elsewhere, you will have both sides effectively finger-pointing at one another, blaming one another for starting the fight. So Azerbaijan claimed that Armenian forces stationed in Nagorno-Karabakh fired into Azeri territory, killing a number of civilians as well as Azeri combatants. Armenia denies that claims and effectively accuses Azerbaijan of trying to use opportunistic attack to grab the territory. So it's really difficult to work out the origins, particularly when tensions are not escalating but de-escalating, but in fact on the rise.
Alexei Muraviev. Tens of thousands of opposition activists have taken to the streets in Belarus for a 7th consecutive weekend. The crowd called for President Alexander Lukashenko to resign over what's widely criticised as a rigged election. Masked police were seen dragging people into vans and using stun grenades and tear gas to disperse crowds. Human rights activists say at least 53 people were detained. Donald Trump reportedly paid just over $1,000 income tax the year he won the presidency. The New York Times says it has obtained tax return data which shows Mr. Trump paid that same amount during his first year in office. It's also reporting the president paid no federal income taxes during 10 of the past 15 years.
We're under audit, but the story is a total fake. And all of this, or is this one, you know, we had the same exact questions, usually asked by the same people. And that took place 4 years ago. You remember, this was so well litigated.
The newspaper claims he mostly avoided paying tax by reporting heavy losses across his business empire. Donald Trump is the only president in modern times not to make his tax filings public. As the United States enters the home straight of the race to the White House, Democratic challenger Joe Biden holds a consistent and large lead over President Donald Trump in national polling. But 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton was also ahead in the polls, as Casey Briggs explains.
Here we go.
The unexpected outcome,
Donald Trump is the President of the United States.
That shook Americans' faith in the polls.
A complete earthquake.
4 years later, what's the chance we end up seeing a repeat?
On the average of September's polls, Joe Biden is ahead in enough states to claim more than the 270 electoral college votes needed to win the White House. But polling is just an estimate. If Joe Biden consistently overperformed his polling by 2%, it would be a complete blowout. If Donald Trump's vote is being underestimated by 2 points, well then it becomes a much more competitive race.
There's still enough volatility in very close states where it could swing in the opposite direction by the time we get to Election Day. And that's one of the things that we saw in 2016, is that there was a late swing towards Donald Trump.
Overall, the polls weren't out by any more than 2012. But in 2016, errors in key states were the difference between victory and defeat, like Michigan, which Trump took by just 0.3%.
And it was just enough that changed the outcome by 10,000 votes, 30,000 votes, 40,000 votes in each of these states.
In 2016, 13% of Americans didn't decide who to vote for until the final week of the election campaign. But in the end, sided decisively with Donald Trump. This time around, the number of undecided voters is already smaller, more than 5 weeks from Election Day, which means fewer swinging voters left to win.
People are voting right now because they know the very soul of this country is at stake.
Pollsters did miss one thing, the growing importance of education level in who you vote for. There was big support for Donald Trump from voters without a college degree that was missed. That's now been corrected for.
Bottom line, we're doing very well We have the biggest crowds.
There's still plenty of opportunity for voters to change their minds. On Wednesday, the candidates debate face-to-face for the first time. Casey Briggs, ABC News.
And ABC News will have full coverage of all three presidential debates. The first is on Wednesday, and we'll have special coverage from 10:45 Eastern. New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister hopes a travel bubble between Tasmania and New Zealand could be in place well before Christmas. Tourism operators are optimistic, but the Tasmanian government says the federal government will need to approve the bubble first.
The pops of colour on Wynyard's Table Cape is again drawing a crowd.
We're finding there's a lot more people from Hobart here. So they're normally a bit hard to coax up to the northwest coast.
But the tulip farm is missing its interstate and international tourists. Nearby accommodation is on the up, but it's also struggling with borders shut.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Like, on the one hand, you think, I really want it to be open to boost my business, but on the other hand, I really want it to be safe as well.
New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister is optimistic a trans-Tasman bubble between New Zealand, Tasmania, Queensland and New South Wales could be up and running by Christmas.
The sooner we do it, the better in terms of our economic problems.
I think it's great. I think it would be fantastic if we could get that connected. Hopefully first with Hobart and Tasmania.
I think Tasmania and New Zealand are almost equal in the COVID situation. So I think if we open up, it would be good for the tourist attractions.
I would love that because I'm from New Zealand.
I think it's probably more realistic that we open up to the rest of Australia before extending to other countries.
The Tasmanian government supports the idea, but says the decision to allow international visitors to the Hobart airport is ultimately a federal one.
The federal government have provided an undertaking that if and when international flights are advanced for Hobart, that they will put in place border services, and they are funded.
We'll have those discussions, of course. Need to have those discussions with the Home Affairs Department too. We need to make sure that the right provisions are in place.
While many tourist destinations like this remain busy for now, other tourist operators are concerned about their long-term sustainability.